He had never been to a wedding before, so he could not judge how wizarding celebrations differed from Muggle ones, though he was pretty sure that the latter would not involve a wedding cake toppled with two model phoenixes that took flight when the cake was cut, or bottles of champagne that floated unsupported through the crowd. As evening drew in, the moths began to swoop under the canopy, now lit by floating golden lanterns. The rivalry became more and more uncontained. Fred and George had long since disappeared into the darkness with a pair of Fleur's cousins. Charlie and Hagrid and a squat wizard in a purple pork pipe hat were singing Otto the Hero in the corner. Wandering through the crowd so as to escape the drunken uncle of Ron's, who seemed unsure whether or not Harry was his son, Harry spotted an old wizard sitting alone at a table. The cloud of white hair made him look rather like an aged dandelion clock, and was toppled by a moth-eaten fez. He was vaguely familiar. Racking his brains, Harry suddenly realized that this was Elpha, Doge, member of the Order of Phoenix, and the writer of Dumbledore's obituary. Harry approached him. "May I sit down?" Of course," said Doge. He had a rather high-pitched, wheezy voice. Harry leaned in. "Mr. Doge, I am Harry Potter." Doge gasped. "My dear boy, Arthur told me you were here, disguised. I'm so glad, so honored." In a flutter of nervous pleasure, Doge poured Harry a goblet of champagne. "I thought of writing you," he whispered, "after Dumbledore. The shock, and for you, I am sure." Doge's eyes filled with sudden tears. "I saw the obituary you wrote for the Daily Prophet," said Harry. "I didn't realize you knew Professor Dumbledore so well." "As well as anyone," said Doge, dappling his eyes with a napkin. "Certainly I knew him longest, if you don't count Aberforth, and somehow people never do seem to count Aberforth. Speaking of the Daily Prophet, I don't whether you saw Mr. Doge. Oh, please, call me Alpheus. I think I got that right. Alpheus, dear boy. Alpheus. I don't know whether you saw the interview Rita Skeeter gave about Dumbledore." Doge's face flooded with angry color. "Oh, yes, Harry, I saw it. That woman, a vulture might be more accurate term, positively pestered me to talk to her. I am ashamed to say that I became rather rude, called her an interfering trout, which resulted, as you may have seen, in the apparitions cast upon my sanity. Well, in that interview," Harry went on, "Rita Skeeter hinted that Professor Dumbledore was involved in the dark arts when he was young." "Don't believe a word of it," Doge said at once. "Not a word, Harry. Let nothing tarnish your memories of Albus Dumbledore." Harry looked at Doge's earnest, painful face and felt not reassured, but frustrated. Did Doge really think that it was that easy, that Harry could simply choose not to believe? Did Doge understand Harry needed to know for sure, to know everything? Perhaps Doge suspected Harry's feelings, for he looked concerned and hurried on. "Harry, Rita Skeeter is a dreadful—" But he was interrupted by a shrill cackle. "Rita Skeeter? Oh, I love her. Always read her." Harry and Doge looked up to see Auntie Muriel standing there, the plumes dancing on her hat, a goblet of champagne in her hand. "She's written a book about Dumbledore, you know." "Hello, Muriel," said Doge. "Yes, we were just discussing—" "You there! Give me your chair. I'm 107." Another red-headed Weasley's cousin jumped off his seat, looked alarmed, and Aunt Muriel swung it around with a surprising strength and plopped herself down in between Doge and Harry. "Hello again, Barry, or whatever your name is," she said to Harry. "Now, what were you saying about Rita Skeeter, Alpheus? You know she's written a biography about Dumbledore. I can't wait to read it. I must remember to place an order at Flourish and Blott's." Doge, Doge looked stiff and solemn at this, but Auntie Muriel drained her goblet and clicked her bony fingers at the passing waiter for a replacement. She took another large gulp of champagne, belched, then said, "There's no need to look like a pair of stuffed frogs before he became so respected and respectable and all that tosh. There were some mighty funny rumors about Albus." "Ill-informed sniping," said Doge, turning radish-colored again. "You would say that, Alphias," cracked Auntie Muriel. "I notice how you skated over the sticky patches in the obituary of yours." "Oh, I'm sorry you think so," said Doge, more coldly still. "I assure you I was writing from the heart." "Oh, well, all you know, you worship Dumbledore, and I dare say you think he is a saint if you don't turn out the way he did away that squib's sister." "Muriel!" exclaimed Doge. The chill that had nothing to do with the iced champagne was stealing through Harry's chest. "What do you mean?" he asked Muriel. "Who said his sister was a squib? I thought she was ill." "Thought wrong then, didn't you, Barry?" said Auntie Muriel, looking delighted at the effect she had produced. "Anyway, how could you expect to know anything about it? It all happened years and years before you even were thought of, my dear. And the truth is that those of us who were alive then never knew what really happened. That's why I can't wait to find out what Reader Skeeter's unearthed. Dumbledore's kept that sister of his quiet for a long time." "Untrue," wheezed Doge. "Absolutely untrue. He never told me his sister was a squib," said Harry, without thinking, still cold inside. "And why on earth would he tell you?" screeched Muriel, swaying a little finger in her seat as she attempted to focus upon Harry. "The reason Albus Dumbledore never spoke about Ariana," began Alphias in a voice stiff with emotion, "is, I should have thought, quite clear. Was so devastated by her death." "Why did no one ever see her, Alphias?" squawked Muriel. "Why did half of us never even know she existed until they carried her coffin out of the house and held a funeral for her? Where was saintly Albus and Ariana was locked in a cellar, off being brilliant at Hogwarts, and never mind that he was going on what was going on in his own house." What do you mean locked in a cellar?" asked Harry. "What is this?" Doge looked wretched. Auntie Muriel cracked again, and answered Harry. "Dumbledore's mother was a terrifying woman, simply terrifying, Muggle-born, though I heard she pretended otherwise." "She never pretended anything of the sort. Kendra was a fine woman," whispered Doge miserably, but Auntie Muriel ignored him. "Proud and very domineering, the sort of witch whom would have been mortified to produce a squib." "Ariana was not a squib," wheezed Doge. "So you say, Alphias, but explain then why she never attended Hogwarts," said Auntie Muriel. She turned back to Harry. "In our days, squibs were often hushed up, though to take it to the extreme of actual imprisoning the little girl in a house and pretending she didn't exist, I tell you, that is not what happened," said Doge. But Auntie Muriel steamrolled on, still addressing Harry. "Squibs are usually shipped off to Muggle schools and encouraged to integrate into the Muggle community. Much kinder than trying to find them a place in the wizarding world, where they must always be second class. But naturally Kendra Dumbledore wouldn't have dreamed of letting her daughter go to a Muggle school." "Ariana was delicate," said Doge desperately. "Her health was always too poor to permit her to leave the house," cracked Muriel. "And yet she was never taken to St. Mungo's, and no healer was ever summoned to see her. Really, Muriel, how could you possibly know whether—" "For your information, Alphias," My cousin Lancelot was a healer of St. Mungo's at the time, and he told my family in the strictest confidence that Ariana has never even been seen there. All more suspicious, Lancelot thought. Dodge looked to be on the verge of tears. Aunt Muriel, who seemed to be enjoying herself hugely, snapped her fingers at for more champagne. Numbly, Harry thought of how the Dursleys had once shut him up, locked him away, and kept him out of sight, all for the crime of being a wizard. Had Dumbledore's sister suffered the same fate in reverse, imprisoned her for her lack of magic? Had Dumbledore truly left her fate while he was off at Hogwarts to prove himself brilliant and talented? Now, if Kendra hadn't died first, Muriel resumed, I would have said that it was she who finished off Ariana. How can you, Muriel? Groaned Doge. A mother kill her own daughter. Think of what you're saying. It's the mother in question was capable of imprisoning her daughter for years on end, then why not? Shrugged Auntie Muriel. But, as I say, it doesn't fit, because Kendra died before Ariana. Of what? No one seemed sure. Oh, no doubt Ariana murdered her, said Doge, with a brave of attempt to scorn. Why not? Yes, Ariana would have made a desperate bid for freedom and killed Kendra in the struggle, said Auntie Muriel thoughtfully. Shake your head, all you, like Alphias. You were at Ariana's funeral, were you not? Yes, I was, said Doge, through trembling lips. And a more desperately sad occasion I cannot remember. Albus was heartbroken. His heart wasn't the only thing. Didn't Aberforth break Albus's nose halfway through the service? If Doge had looked horrified before this, it was nothing to see how he looked now. Muriel might have stabbed him. She crackled loudly, took another swig of champagne, and dribbled it down her chin. How do you? Croaked Doge. My mother was friendly with old Bathilda Bagshot, said Auntie Muriel happily. But Bathilda described the whole thing to Mother while I was listening at the door. A coffin-side brawl. By the way Bathilda told it, Aberforth shouted that it was all Albus's fault that Ariana was dead, and then punched him in the face. According to Bathilda, Albus did not even defend himself. And that's odd enough in itself. Albus could have destroyed Aberforth in a duel, with both hands tied behind his back. Muriel swigged yet another more champagne. The recitation of these old scandals seemed to elate her as much as horrified Doge. Harry did not know what to think, what to believe. He wanted the truth, and yet all Doge did was sit there and bleat feebly at Ariana. That Ariana had been ill. Harry could hardly believe that Dumbledore would not have intervened in such cruelty was happening inside his own house, and yet there was undoubtedly something odd about the story. And I tell you something else, Muriel said, hiccuping slightly as she lowered her goblet. I think Bathilda has spilled the beans to Rita Skeeter. All those hints in Skeeter's interview about an important source close to the Dumbledores, goodness knows she was there all through the Ariana business, and it fits. Bathilda would never talk to Rita Skeeter, whispered Doge. Bathilda Bagshot, Harry said, the author of History of Magic? The name was printed in the front of one of Harry's textbooks, though admittedly not one of those he had read most attentively. Yes, said Doge, clutching at Harry's question like a drowning man at a belt. A most gifted magical historian and an old friend of Albus's. Quite gaga these days, I've heard, said Auntie Muriel cheerfully. If that is so, is even more dishonorable for Skeeter to have taken advantage of her, said Doge, and no reliance can be placed on anything Bathilda may have said. Oh, there are always ways of bringing back memories, and I'm sure Rita Skeeter knows them all, said Auntie Muriel, But even if Bathilda's completely cuckoo, I'm sure she still have old photographs, maybe even letters. She knew the Dumbledores for years. Well worth a trip to Godric's Hollow, I would have thought. Harry, who had been taking a sip of butterbeer, choked. Dodge banged him on the back of Harry as he coughed, looking into Muriel through streaming eyes. Once he had control of his voice again, he said, Bathilda Bagshot lives in Godric's Hollow? Yes, she's been there forever. The Dumbledores moved there after Percival was imprisoned, and she was their neighbor. The Dumbledores lived in Godric's Hollow? Yes, Barry. That's what I've just said Aunt Muriel testily. Harry felt drained, empty. Never once in 6 years had Dumbledore told Harry that they had both lived and lost loved ones in Godric's Hollow. Why? Were Lily and James buried close to Dumbledore's mother and sister? Had Dumbledore visited their graves, perhaps walked past Lily and James to do so? And he'd never once told Harry, never bothered to say. And why is it so important? Harry could not explain even to himself. Yet he felt it was tantamount to a lie not to tell him that he had this place and experiences in common. He stared ahead of him, barely noticing what was going on around him, and did not realize that Hermione had just appeared out of the crowd until she drew up a chair beside him. I simply can't dance anymore, she panted, slipping off one of her shoes and rubbing the soles of her feet. Ron's gone looking to find some more butterbeers. It's a bit odd. I've just seen Victor storming away from Luna's father. It looked like they were been arguing. She dropped her voice, staring at him. Harry, are you okay? Harry did not know where to begin. But it did not matter. At the moment, something large and silvery came falling through the canopy over the dance floor. Graceful and gleaming, the lynx landed lightly in the middle of the astonished dancers. Heads turned. As those nearest, it froze absurdly in the mid-dance. Then the Patronus' mouth opened wide, and it spoke in a loud, deep, slow voice of Kingsley Shacklebolt. The Ministry has fallen. Scrimgeour is dead. They are coming. Good night, guys.